I traveled to watch a football club that has more Instagram followers than some first division teams in Europe. They play in a 40,000 seater stadium, and when I got there, this is what I saw. Right now I'm in Indonesia, a country that breeds football. Not casually, not as a hobby, as a religion. From the flared up stands of Persija Jakarta, all the way to the roaring chants of Persib Bandung. This nation has some of the most passionate fans in all of Asia and maybe the world, and I was genuinely excited to watch this culture at first hand. So I started my journey by traveling to Bekasi City, a club playing in Indonesia's second division, just an hour from central Jakarta. On paper, this is a club with nearly 1 million followers on Instagram, and that's probably the most followed second division team in the whole world. They play in a stadium that fits almost 40,000 people, and I arrived to the stadium expecting thunderous noise, packed stands, and that famous Indonesian football culture. But when I arrived, this is what I saw. A massive stadium, but almost completely empty. Only 2 small sections of the stands were open, and they couldn't even fill those. No real atmosphere, quiet most of the game, except for some kids who tried to get the atmosphere going as best as they could. So I started asking the only question that mattered. Why? To understand how strange this is, you have to understand how football works in Indonesia. For the big clubs, Persija Jakarta, Persib Bandung and Persita Tangerang, getting a ticket is like a war. Regular supporters can barely get a ticket, and online sites sell out immediately when tickets go online. So for tourists like me, almost impossible to get a ticket. And the atmosphere of those games are absolutely world class. Just look at this. This isn't a European derby. This is just a regular league match in Indonesia. Tens of thousands of fans, choreographed displays, flags covering the entire stands. This is normal here. Then you have Bekasi City. Nearly 1 million followers online, but then at the stadium, silence. So I asked the question again, why? Why does a club with that digital reach, a club with more Instagram followers than some of the clubs I just showed you, play in front of an empty stadium? To find the answer, we have to go back to the beginning, and the beginning is quite confusing. Bekasi City wasn't born in Bekasi. In fact, the club has never been born anywhere. It started in 2014 as Putrajen FC in Jember, East Java, in what was then the 3rd tier of Indonesian football. A tiny local team with local hopes. Then in 2018 came the first big move. The license of the club was bought by Putra Sinargiri, and the club relocated to Gresik. The team relocated about 4 hours away from Jember to Gresik, leaving the fanbase they had gathered over the years with their home base being in Jember. And they also changed their name to PSG Gresik. No connection to Paris Saint-Germain, by the way. In 2019 they actually achieved something real, winning the Liga 3 East Java Championship after a penalty shootout. And that remains to this day the only official trophy the club has ever won. But then in 2020, COVID hit. Football stopped, money dried up, and PSG Gresik was sold to an Indonesian businessman named Saiful Arifin, who then moved the club again.
The game's gone. So
this time to Pati, Central Java, and also renamed the club again to PSG Pati. And for a moment there was hope. They built impressive facilities for the players. People called it a shock for a Liga 2 team to have this good facilities for the club. But for the fans, there were still barely any fans, either in the stadium or online. And then came 2021, and this is where the Instagram numbers exploded. 2 of Indonesia's biggest celebrities, YouTuber Atta Halilintar with over 30 million subscribers on YouTube, and entrepreneur Putra Siregar decided they wanted to buy a football club. They first tried to buy another club, but they couldn't agree on the price. But then out of pure coincidence, they visited PSG Pati during a training camp, and something just clicked. Atta bought a majority stake in the club, and he changed the club's name again. This time to AHA PSG Pati. He also changed the logo, from the previous milkfish to now a proud black horse. which the club still uses today. And suddenly, millions of young Indonesians who had never cared about the second division in football started following the club. But why? Not because of results, the club barely avoided relegation the previous year, but because their idols own the club. Every Instagram post, every YouTube video, every TikTok behind the scenes clip, it all went viral. And this wasn't a football club anymore, it was a content machine.
The game's gone in it, the game's gone.
In 2022, the club relocated once more, leaving the somewhat loyal fanbase they had gathered again, and this time to Bekasi City, just outside of Jakarta. A brand new home, a 40,000 seater stadium, and a new name, FC Bekasi City. And on top of that, a big ambition to grow. But here we are, years later, and the club still has no loyal fanbase. So where did it all go wrong? The two influencers did something very well. They built a massive online audience for a club that hasn't even been in the first division ever. That's unprecedented. No other club at this kind of level has that kind of digital reach. But football fandom is tribal.
Rifamos la moto de mi papá, rifamos mi Play para venir acá.
Rifaste la Play.
Y no tenemos ni entrada.
It's about geography, history, and belonging.
Pero, mira lo que es esto. Mira lo que es esto. Esto es Boca, loco. Dale Boca.
You can't move a club every couple of years and expect the fans to feel loyalty. When I asked people at the Bekasi game who they supported, they said Bekasi, and then they named one of the other big clubs in the area. Because there's no generational memory, no father-son traditions, and not real passion for the club. The millions who follow Bekasi City online, they're not real fans of the club. They're fans of Atta and Putra, not the players. They'll like a post, they'll comment a horse emoji, but will they travel and actually support the team when they need it? No. They support the personalities behind the club, not the actual club. In football, a real fan is someone who supports the team even when they're losing 4-0 in the rain.
We mustn't forget that it's been raining, so...
Atta and Putra built a marketing masterpiece, but they forgot to build a community. A community cannot be bought. It has to be grown over years, over decades, not through viral posts. Nearly 1 million people follow Bekasi City online, but if you actually travel to the stadium without knowing that number, you would be surprised if they even had 10,000 followers on Instagram. But when in Indonesia, you can't leave here without experiencing some of the great atmosphere at some of the biggest clubs. And I have something crazy lined up for you next video. Something that you won't want to miss, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the strangest clubs in world football. If you did, please give the video a like and share it with your friends. There's plenty more coming in the next couple of weeks, so subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next video.